Well, that was not pretty. Hello, everybody. Terry Bennett here on the Brock Eagle Football Show, brought to you by Tommy Hayes Photography and DFW Executive Realty, right here on the S2S Sports Network, part of L4 Media. As Brock falls to 1-3, as they go on the road and lose to Gunner 35-12, it was one of those games. I don't know how to really describe it. I think the best way I could describe it is you go back, and this is for us older folks, you go back to the 1995 season for the Dallas Cowboys, and San Francisco came in, and it was a battle of the two top teams. They'd played in, 3 straight title games, and San Francisco just came out and just swung a haymaker early, and Dallas was never able to respond. That's kind of how this game felt. And I know that's going a long way back. Wikipedia it if you're too young, and you'll know what I'm talking about. And that's what this game felt like. Gunner came out loaded for bear, and they were aggressive. They were fast. They were confident, and they played their assignments, and they won. And there's just no other way around it. We can talk about the Pleasant Grove game. That's a game Brock could have won. We can talk about the Wimberley game. That's a game Brock could have won. And in this game, there are a couple key moments that didn't go Brock's way that could have changed the game. Let's not act like it was 70-0. You have the scoop and score get called back on a defensive hold. You have a dropped pick six. That's 14 points right there that not only gets added to your tally, but I think also changes the momentum of that game, especially that scoop and score. Gunner's driving. It looks like they're about to put another touchdown on. You sack him. The ball hits the ground. It's an easy touchdown. All of a sudden, the momentum is back in your favor and all, but it gets called, and Brock just did not respond well to that. And that's. I mean, there's just no other way to make it sound any better. Brock got their butt kicked. Now, is this going to be a season-defining game? Yes. It'll either be a season-defining game where, Gunner proved that Brock was down this year, or, this was the game that turned it around and Brock went on a win streak and Brock started roaring back and Brock looked like the Brock Eagles. And no matter how frustrated you are as a Brock fan, you've got to trust that's what's going to happen, because simply look at the history. That's what Brock does. Brock bounces back. That's why they went 0-4 last year in this stretch and played for state. All things considered, coming out of it, you're 1-3 this year. You're one game up compared to where you were last year. And I still feel that in 3 of the 4 games this year, the Brock Eagles played better. Again, the Pleasant Grove game last year was close, but not really. The Wimberley game last year was close, but you never really felt that Brock was in the game. Now, that Gunter game last year was a slobber knocker, one-possession game. It could have gone either way. So this year it's flipped, where against the 2 4A teams that are really, really good, especially Wimberley. I'm actually going to go see Wimberley this week as they take on Lampasas. Brock went toe-to-toe with a 4A Division II state finalist that will probably be a 4-2A Division state titleist again this year. A 4A Division II state titleist. That's a lot of words to say. It's been a long day. And then a Pleasant Grove team that's going to go a few rounds in Division II 4A as well. So you can look at the Gunner game and that be what you measure Brock by this season up to this point, or you can look at the totality of it and see where, that Gunner game's bad, that Gunner game got out of hand, that Gunner game did not go the way as expected, but Brock in the other games have looked really good. And it doesn't matter now. And I have to remind myself this, and even talking with Coach Mathis, I even said it to him. We always have a conversation before we record, and I'm like, I got to remind myself that game means nothing. You're not going to see Gunner in the playoffs. They're Division II. It's not district. That game literally is an exhibition. It all starts for real this week. And we'll see how Brock responds and how they respond. And it's not even necessarily how they respond the next few weeks, because it should be, you've got rivalries, but it's Boyd, it's Peachster, and it's Whitesboro, and all 3 of them are down. Now, we'll see how down Whitesboro is. Supposedly they played a lot of freshmen last week. They got beat really bad by Sulphur, Oklahoma, who was 0-2 going into that game. But I've heard that could be injuries. We'll see if Whitesboro gets better. But let's let's all know what we're looking at, and that's Paradise in about a month. In fact, actually a month exactly. That's where Brock needs to get right. That's the game that you're going to play a team that's on Gunter's level. And Paradise is really, really good this year. Austin Iglesias is really, really special this year. In fact, he's different because he's bigger, but he is as explosive and as important to that Paradise offense as Overman is to that Gunter offense. So we'll see how Brock responds. As always, Coach Mathis is here joining me. Great interview. I always record that, and then I do my intros just so I can kind of know the theme going into it. And the theme with him, and I was curious, is it's, we learn. This is Brock. We learn. We're going to trust in our process. We're not going to, tear things down and start back over. And I don't think they need to. I want to thank our sponsors, Tommy Hayes Photography. You can find him on Instagram at Tommy_Hayes_photography. You can also find him online at TommyHayesPhotography.com. On Facebook, just type in Tommy Hayes Photography. Best photographer in the state. He didn't see that game because that lucky son was in Alaska on his annual trip. Last year, he wasn't able to do it. This year, he was back at it, and he has some great pictures from that. I love it when he posts those. But he also does the best portraits and action photos in the state of Texas when it comes to sports photos. We do appreciate him being a sponsor on this show and the 3A show on Sideline to Sideline. Also, DFW Executive Realty. You can find that online at dfwexecutiverealty.com. Eddie Washington, he's your man if you need any kind of realty needs on the Fort Worth side of Dallas-Fort Worth, and we do appreciate him. They have been the longest sponsors of any of my shows since I've been doing coaches shows and even before then. In fact, the person that was right next behind them was now the boss of the network that I work for, Brett Lee and L4 Media and, of course, L4 Clothing. And so I do appreciate Tommy and Eddie. All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Coach Mathis about that tough loss against Gunter, talk about where did the boys go from there, and also talk that Boyd District opener, and we'll do that when we come back right here on the Brock Eagle Football Show, brought to you by Tommy Hayes Photography and DFW Executive Realty on S2S. Is your demanding work lifestyle in need of fire-resistant clothing that can keep up? Well, L4FR clothing should be your go-to for quality, affordability, safety, and style. L4FR was founded by a third-generation oil field worker who is also a veteran. Thus, this company has a deep appreciation for reliability and longevity, all while we provide first-rate customer service. Our durable apparel will serve you well for many years to come, whether you're working on a pipeline, a lineman climbing utility poles, or in any other environment requiring fire-resistant apparel. L4FR has you covered. Our apparel is tough enough to resist hazardous conditions while still providing high comfort and style. L4FR provides clothing options to ensure your safety and comfort, whether you're on the job or not. To view our complete inventory of flame-resistant garments, please visit our online store at l4frclothing.com or give us a call at 817-757-4935. Si habla español. Terry Bennett back here on the Brock Football Show. Now joined by the head coach of the Eagles, Coach Billy Mathis. And, Coach, I mean, there's no other way to cut it. That was a tough night, and I think it was a very unexpected night. What are your thoughts on the game?
Man, I'll say this. It was a tough night, and my hat's off to Coach Brazil and the Gunter Tigers. They played their butts off, and they did what they needed to do, to go out and get a win. And, really for me and for the Brock Eagles, we didn't put our best foot forward. We didn't go and bring the level of fight that we needed to bring, for a full 4 quarters, like we should have to go win a game like that. And Gunter did. And, when you sit back and look at it all, right, where does that go back to? It goes back to the head coach, and it goes back to me. And, man, that's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow at times, but that's what my job is. That's what I'm here for these boys to do, is to get them ready. And, I've got to get them understanding, our whole motto this year is, burn the ships. And burn the ships, you pull up, in in your ship and you go to battle, you're going to burn it because there's no looking back. There's no retreat. You've got to be all in. And we've got to get this football team all in, 100% trusting what their job is and executing at a higher level than we are right now. And that's just the truth. But knowing this too, right? These boys are prideful. These boys understand, and they don't like losing. They don't like, losing like that. It don't matter if you lose by 1 or if you lose by 30. They don't like it. And we're going to see how we respond this week. The practice this week's been amazing. It's been great. These boys, they understand where we're at. We're in district now, and these are the games that count. Why do we play those 4 games? To go get to a point in our season to where we're ready for these. And the last 4 games are, state championship types of games, and you're trying to get ready each and every week and bring your best every week. And I thought we've had a lot of bright spots, a lot of silver linings, but we had some spots too that we have to work on. And it doesn't matter what football team you are. It don't matter if you're undefeated sitting 4-0 right now. You're never perfect right now. If you're peaking right now, you're in trouble. And it was the same way last year. We had stuff we had to work on. We were fighting through some stuff. We were getting ready. You want to peak at the right time. And that's what's great about our guys. We're going to start peaking at the right time. That's going to carry us on to, hopefully a district championship and on to a state championship.
Well, after a game like this, and you do bring up a good point, and I'll admit it, even as somebody that covers a sport, you kind of forget, oh, yeah, that wasn't even a district game. That was just a game. But after a game like that, for you, how did you approach talking to the guys? Was this we've got to tear it down and reassess? Was this just hey, the score looked worse than the game? What was the communication like?
There's no turning back and tearing it all down, because we've got a lot of really good things going. We just,
exactly.
Man, we were a few plays, there offensively that, we were a step from having big gains, or, a couple penalties away from, we were a pick 6 away and a scoop and score away from us being up 14-7. We dropped the pick 6 and the scoop and score got called back on us. So instead of being up 14-7, we end up being down, 21-0. And those are the things that we've got to switch. And I've said this, through the weeks that you and I have talked. There's always 4 or 5 plays in a game that determine it.
Yep.
I've got to get those 4 or 5 plays turned to where we're winning those 4 or 5 plays. And what is that? How do I do that? Well, it's a discipline, right? We got to be more disciplined in what we do, and we got to be trusting and doing exactly what I tell the guys to do, right? And, that's what my job is, what these coaches' jobs are, to get the kids trusting that, hey, if we say to go to this area or to go to this guy, you go do it and have no thought in your mind about, well, maybe if or what if, right? It's not. It's this is where I'm going, and I'm getting there, and it's going to be fast, and it's going to be powerful, and it's going to be violent. That's where we got to get back to. You talk about tearing stuff down. We don't have to tear anything down. But we went through this week. We went back to the basics. Hey, man, we're out there. We're working on tackling. We're lined up. I mean, it's full pads, full tilt, full throttle practice from the start to the finish. And if we don't do that, there's punishment right there. There's things you got to do. You got to go out and run extra gassers or something. And it's got to mean a lot to you. And it means so much to these boys to get this fixed, to have a chance to go and win the district championship, that, these guys step up to the table. These guys they're amazing, right? They're resilient. They've been here before, and they understand where you start isn't the end all be all. It's where you finish. And you go back to, 2021, we were 15-0, feeling good, and we ended up losing a state championship game. You got to be ready, right? You got to go, and you got to be excited about each game, but you're only going to be truly happy winning that last one. And that's our goal this year. These first 4 games, they don't determine if we win that last one or not. Are they getting us ready? Absolutely. But being 1-3 right now, that doesn't determine anything in our fate from here on out. All it did is get us ready, get us able to fix some of the stuff that we need to fix, and go build on the stuff that we're good at.
Well, and the taste in the mouth isn't great after the Gunner game, but like you said right as we started talking before we started recording, y'all are in a better win-loss position than y'all were last year. I mean, and I feel still that at 3 of the 4 games this year, y'all legitimately should have won or could have won compared to where last year y'all were kind of hanging around against Wimberley and hanging around against Pleasant Grove. But y'all legitimately could have gone into this Gunner game 3-0. So I think maybe the Gunner game gets a little overemphasized because it's Gunner and it is the most recent, but you're still in a good spot. And as you say, it all starts over this week with Boyd.
It does. And, then that's part of the season, and that's part of, the growing pains. And go back to Pleasant Grove. We were a ball being stripped out there on that quarterback sneak to kneel on the ball to starting out the season 1-0. We were a couple pass plays, jump balls away against Wimberley, from being 3-0. So, and you're right. That's the way it goes. And it goes back to saying, hey, those are the plays we've got to win. Those are the things that we've got to do so that we're not having the same conversation again, next week. Our boys, let me tell you, I've been so proud of our guys. There's never any give up in them. We get in there and we watch film and they accept responsibility. I accept responsibility, and there's nobody blaming anybody. Nobody. These boys understand, and these guys know what it takes to go out and win. And we got a really good football team. I mean, a team that can go and win it all when we get it all dialed in. We're not there yet, but we're getting there. And that's what we, as coaches, that's what we got to do each and every week. All right? So this week we got Boyd. First game of district, it's always a big rivalry against Boyd. From the day I got here, one of the first stories I was ever told was, how the Boyd Yellow Jackets, right? All they talked about was, hey, wait till you get football and we get to play. Yep. And that was back in 2012, 2013. And that conversation comes up every year when we play Boyd. And it's still a big rivalry, and it's still a big deal to go out and play Boyd. And our guys do a good job of not ever taking anybody lightly, so, and they know as well as everybody else, records mean nothing, right? If you were just to look at our record, Boyd's thinking, hey, we're going to go play a 1-3 team. But I can promise you this, Boyd's not thinking, hey, we're going to go play a 1-3 team. Boyd's thinking, hey, we're about to have to go play the Brock Eagles, and we better bring our best. And it's the same for us. We don't look at records. We look at what's ahead of us, and it's the Boyd Yellow Jackets, and we know if we're going to win that game, we got to be hitting on all cylinders. We got to be the toughest team out there. We got to go execute, and we're not taking anybody lightly.
When you look at the Yellow Jackets, I know they're 0-4, but I mean, they've got an offense that can score. That they've been in all but one of their games. And you bring up a good point. You talk about being a fresh start for Brock. It's a fresh start for Boyd in district. And I've always said that first week of district is always some weird games because the lesser teams go, hey, this is our chance to get back into it and start the season anew.
That's right. That's right, man. You got – there's no pressure on you, really. You got nothing to lose. You got everything to gain. Go out there and throw everything in the kitchen sink at them. Go out there and go do what you need to do. Go out there and find your identity. Go out there and get everything dialed in. Go out there and play your heart out for each other. Go play your heart out for your team. And that's when you get in the district, when these games really start, quote unquote, counting, people play different. People play harder. They play more excited. And, because they've got seniors on their team that don't want their last year to be, cut short either. They got seniors on their team that want to go and say, hey, our senior year, we beat the Brock Eagles, just like our guys. They want to go, hey, you know what? We beat the Boyd Yellow Jackets our senior year, and we won district, and we started out 1-0. So there's a lot of that goes on, and that's a lot of stuff that plays into each and every game. Emotions are real. It's something that leads to kids playing at a different level.
Well, and again, that's what you and I were talking about off there. That we, I felt that that's what happened in the Gunner game was the emotion tilted towards them. And as you and I were talking about, they're a team that thrives on that. But I want to go back to what you said about the film and assignment football. We always think about positive reinforcement with that kind of stuff. Hey, this is where you did right. But with a game like this, isn't the negative reinforcement just as good as you can say, look, this is what happens when you don't play the assignment we've been telling you all week?
Oh, you're absolutely. And we spend a lot of time doing that, because we go and we check, what we call loafs, and every coach and staff does it. We always check, see if they're loafing or if they're not where they're supposed to be. So 100%, we go and check and say, if you'd have done this, this would have been the other result. Or, if receivers are downfield blocking harder, look at yourself right here. You're not giving best effort. This is why this guy ends up making a tackle 30 yards downfield, but across field, because he's hustling more than you are. And those are big things, and kids understand those. Matter of fact, I think kids listen to those more than they do the positive stuff. Because a lot of times on the positive stuff, they're looking at it, and they're excited, man, they made a big hit and a great hit. And the negative stuff, they look at it and they take it more to heart because – and it hurts their pride. Nobody wants to be called out on anything negative, whether you're a coach or whether you're a kid. But you got to go and fix those things. And you say, you know what? This is what happened here. You didn't give your best, or you didn't do this certain assignment. This caused this big play for them. If you do that, this is the positive result out of it. So absolutely, you've got to do that. And that's part of sports. And everybody does that because let me tell you, tough love, you got to have it. If you go out there and just baby them and patty cake them and tell them, oh, man, you're great. Oh, we tried so hard. Oh, yeah, everybody said the referees cheated us. Well, you're going to be in for a short season. You're going to be in for a soft team. So, it's just the way it is. My job is to get these guys ready, right? And you got to go out and you got to be hard-nosed. You got to be tough. And you got to be able to handle some criticism, right? As a coaching staff, I'm the same way. I got to be able to handle some criticism. And, well, there's a lot of criticism coming at me right now, but that's okay. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. I know whenever I've made bad calls or, stuff like that, that doesn't faze me. I've been doing this for almost 20 years now, and I know this. You can't make everybody happy, but you go out, winning takes care of a lot of that too. So I got to make sure that the guys on my football team are happy. The guys on my football team are believing. The guys on the football team are believing in me. And if there's anything I know is true, they believe in me, and they believe in this coaching staff, and they believe that they can win.
Here at L4 Media, we talk high school football, 4A, 3A, and 2A in Texas. We talk East Texas sports. We talk NFL, guy talk, movie and booze. We also talk wrestling and so much more. And you can see it all on our YouTube channel at L4 Media Company. Like and subscribe. Terry Bennett back here on the Brock Eagles Show. As always, want to thank the head coach of the Eagles, Billy Matz, for joining us here, as he does each and every week. Also, want to remind you, if you have any questions, thoughts, or comments, just email them to me, Terry at S2SSport.com. And if I think they're appropriate, I will read them on the air. If it's a question for Coach or if it's a question for me, you can also ask me anything about 3A in the state for Division I, heck, even Division II. Or you can just listen each and every week as Grant Goodwin and I talk sideline to sideline, 3A style. We also do a 4A show and a 2A show as well. I mean, there's just not anything else to say. Brock is 1-3 going into district this year. They were 0-4 last year. We saw how that turned out. Does that mean it turns out that way this year? No, it does not. 3A Division I is pretty stacked. 3A Division I, Region I is pretty good. But it was pretty good last year, too. And I know a lot of people had buried Brock last year after the 0-4. And I know a lot of people are burying Brock this year after the 1-3 and how they lost to Gunner. And there are some valid questions that Brock is going to have to answer, but they're not going to be able to answer it till they're on the football field. And we'll see what happens. Starts this week at Boyd. Boyd's 0-4, but Boyd's not a bad 0-4 team. Boyd on the year, they can score. They scored 45 in a loss. They've scored 21 in a loss. They've scored 28 in a loss. They lost to Jacksboro, to Blue Ridge, to Fort Worth Country Day, and to City View. Not the world beaters of world beaters. City View's pretty solid. Jacksboro's pretty solid. Blue Ridge, I thought was going to be better, but they haven't been. But Boyd can score. Boyd has a really good quarterback in Brandon McIntyre. They've got really good skill position. Their offensive line returned, I think, 4 starters, maybe all 5. But their issue has been this year is defensively, and I think that's where Brock can take advantage. And I also think Brocks have seen way better offenses. And again, not knocking what Coach Ritchie and Boyd have done. I like their offense a lot. I'm just saying comparative to Boyd versus Gunner, Boyd versus Wimberley, and so on and so on. But, hey, we'll be back next week no matter what. I think we're going to be a little bit happier as Brock fans. And again, you got a couple weeks to get right. You got Paradise coming up. You got Whitesboro, big rivalry game. You got Peaster, a big rivalry game. This district's a weird district this year. I think it was going to be a lot better, and it kind of hasn't turned out that way. And I'm not even talking about Brock's record. You understand that. But just like with Whitesboro being 1-3 and just getting beat as bad as they did last week against Sulphur, Oklahoma. And again, Boyd being 0-4, I thought they would be better. So we'll see. Until next week, I'm Terry Bennett, and this has been the Brock Eagle Football Show right here on S2S, part of L4 Media.